In this video, I'm going to be asking if adopting the spoon theory and tactics like pacing may actually do you more harm than good in the long run. I'll be looking at the many reasons that this could be the case, and I'm going to tell you what works much better in my experience for energy management using some real life examples. Terms like pacing and spoon theory are very common these days in the world of chronic fatigue conditions. There are even gadgets and apps that boast about helping you to pace yourself rather than being for fitness. But is pacing actually good for you? Or could it be doing you more harm than good? And if it doesn't help you with your fatigue, then what does? I want to start by being clear that I do understand why spoon theory was created and that it can serve as a way of explaining what pacing is and how and why it's employed by many people with MECFS and fibromyalgia, as well as other chronic conditions. However, the theory and act of pacing comes from a flawed understanding of what causes the symptom of fatigue, and therefore there are a few problems with it all, which explain why these approaches are actually really ineffective when it comes to recovery from these conditions. Now, I may have just lost you there, possibly because if you are a devout spoon theorist and pacer, you may well be under the impression that full recovery is not possible, and therefore that the best that you can do is to try and manage your symptoms and conditions using this kind of approach. If this is you and I've upset you because nothing can convince you otherwise, then I'm sorry you feel this way and I wish you a good day. But if you are still with me, either because you believe recovery must be possible, or you're at least open to believing that it is, and you want to hear what I have to say, then welcome. Make yourself comfortable, grab a cuppa, put your feet up, and come hang out in my world whilst I tell you what's what. I'm going to start with the issues I see within these methods and why they don't work. And if you're going to come at me saying that they do work, then show me someone who uses them who doesn't still have chronic fatigue. While we wait, I'm going to crack on. So, spoon theory makes the following assumptions about people with chronic fatigue conditions. 1, that physical exertion causes the symptom of fatigue. 2, that you start your day with a limited amount of energy. 3, that every activity you do takes away from that amount of energy. And 4, that you can borrow energy from the next day, but this means that you will start the next day in an energy deficit. All of this would mean that no matter what, your energy is going to decrease throughout the day. And so you have to carefully plan and limit your activities. You have to pace yourself. Some of you might be nodding along and saying to yourselves, or to me, yes, and. Well, let me explain why all of this thinking is greatly flawed. The main fundamental misunderstanding around chronic fatigue is that something called post-exertional malaise is real. It's not. It's bullshit. Exertion in itself does not cause fatigue. If you experience fatigue after doing something physical, I would bet you my last fiver that there is something else going on to cause it. But you're taught to ignore any of that and instead assured you've simply done too much, causing the cycle to just keep going rather than doing something to break it. The symptom of fatigue, like other symptoms of these chronic conditions, is caused by a build-up of suppressed emotions. This causes a sense of emotional threat within the body, which sends danger signals to the brain. This can lead to the hypothalamus going into overdrive, causing haywire in the communication between the different systems of the body. So instead of everything being regulated and working as it should, the stress response is working overtime, and this creates a biochemical marathon within the body. This is why resting doesn't restore energy levels. And if you could borrow energy from the next day, leaving you with a deficit to look forward to, would that not also mean that you could stockpile energy by having a week in bed? If you think so, go and tell someone with severe ME that. I'll wait. Next, this approach makes you focus on what you spend your energy or spoons on, and doesn't take into consideration that some activities give you energy, never mind encouraging you to make these kinds of activities a priority in your life. This feeds into the mindset of, I only have so much energy, so I need to pace myself today, and I'll use what energy I have for essential things and see if I have any left over for me after all of that. Spoiler alert, you won't. This in turn feeds the production of further symptoms as you inevitably spend your energy on doing too much of the things that you don't really want to be doing and forever postponing doing more of what you love to do. So more of what fills you up and meets your needs. It also encourages continued identification of being chronically ill, which consciously or subconsciously discourages a recovery mindset, which means it keeps you ill instead of believing that you can get better. Many of you believe that you have to stay in this loop forever, believing that recovery and regaining your energy levels properly isn't possible, which is wrong. It absolutely is possible to recover. And if this is news to you, you are going to want to watch the linked video at the end of this one, which tells you more about this. Another thing that it does is encourages over-explanation to others about why you can or can't do something, which, when you learn to care more about yourself and your truth than the opinions of others, is simply unnecessary. When you are still thinking of others before yourself constantly and feeling at the mercy of what they think and believe about you, it alters your behaviour. It pulls you out of alignment with who you are and makes you suppress yourself and your emotions, which can then cause more symptoms. This is why I wholeheartedly believe that applying spoon theory and pacing does not work, and furthermore actually does more harm than good in the long run. I know that if you don't believe me about post-exertional malaise being a myth and recovery being possible, then you're going to disagree with me. But with all due respect, if you're hell-bent on continuing to believe that, then this video isn't aimed at you. But if what I say does resonate with you and you do believe me, then you're going to want to know what I suggest you do to feel better instead. So let me tell you right now, and then I'll give you some real-life examples which support everything that I say. By the way, if you're finding what I'm saying interesting, please give the video a like and leave me a comment to let me know, because it really helps to push my videos and content out to others that it could help. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the channel so that you see my other videos. Okay, so if pacing doesn't work, what does? Well, taking the root cause seriously and using this as the basis of an approach which will aid recovery by dealing with and reversing the issue causing it. What am I talking about? Well, to make it easier, I always break down what issues commonly cause the build-up of suppressed emotions, leading to the manifestation of physical symptoms in people with these chronic conditions. They are not meeting your needs with enough balance and variety, boundary issues and allowing unfair treatment, and suppressing the negative emotions caused by not being true to yourself and these above issues. When you tackle these issues in the right way, the emotional threat that you were under passes, and your emotional brain will stop sending the danger signals to the hypothalamus in your mind brain. This means that fight or flight mode is switched off, and the hypothalamus can go back to its job of keeping all the systems in the body regulated. Therefore, the biochemical marathon stops, and so do your symptoms. Here's an important thing to remember, especially when you were challenged on this. People with chronic fatigue conditions who use spoon theory and pacing still have chronic fatigue. It's not helping their recovery. Whereas the opposite is true for those who do the opposite. Turn it on its head, focus on what energizes you and charges you up first and foremost. If you do that, you will have more energy. So what would be an improved and helpful version of spoon theory then? Well, first of all, swap spoons for money. After all, who the hell has ever paid for anything in spoons? Think of energy like money. You can either spend more than you have on things that drain you, don't serve you, or that you don't want to do, leaving you overdrawn, with interest and charges to be deducted as well, taking you further into that negative balance. Or you can first invest it wisely on things that you love and make you feel good, so that you actually get a return on it, allowing you to do more. This is why meeting your needs forms an integral part of your recovery. It helps to keep the energy balance in the positive, where you can accrue more, as much as you need to be able to do what you want to do. How can I be sure this works? Well, I have been watching this play out again and again and again over the last decade with one-to-one clients, with people that have been on courses that I have run on meeting needs, and within a group membership that I ran, where this was a main area of focus. I'll give you some examples. I had a marathon runner who became unable to run for a bus, never mind her usual 25k, after developing CFS. Naturally, she started associating exertion with symptoms, as she was told to by her doctor. But we worked on her boundary and needs issues, and in doing so, also discovered that she had changed her running style whilst training. She'd started running with her partner, who trained at a different pace and in a different area, and she suddenly, through working together and talking about it, she realised that she wasn't enjoying it anymore. So what she did was she went back to running, back to training in her own way, at her own pace, and suddenly there was no issue. It didn't cause any symptom. I had someone who played five-a-side football but started developing symptoms afterwards each week. Again, naturally, he connected the exercise with his CFS symptoms. But again, we worked on other emotional stuff that was going on for him, and he surprised himself by being able to play again with no ill effects. I recently worked with a woman who loves hill walking, but would always pay for it the next day with a fibro flare-up. We looked at her life and where she was still putting the needs of others before her own, to her detriment, and she made some key changes. As a result, She now tunes into her body and her emotions and now feels good the day after hitting the hills instead of being in pain. I've had a couple of clients who always loved walking, but their chronic condition brought fatigue, which affected their ability to walk very far at all. However, on exploration, we discovered that this only happened when they were walking close to home, within a city centre, and that when they went further afield, went out into nature, it was a totally different story. They weren't getting symptoms, and actually they were being energised by being out there in nature walking, which was meeting one of their needs, or probably several. I've had numerous clients who were practically housebound and felt unable to make plans or stray very far from the house when I started working with them. They all got their lives back and now do things like go for long daily walks in nature, run for buses to head into town for the day, take long trips on public transport, make and honour plans with friends, and run their own businesses that they started when their symptoms subsided. The list of these examples goes on and on and on. What my clients discover, often through experimentation, is that when they are doing something they don't want to do, it causes symptoms. But when they do things to meet their needs, with full permission from themselves to do so, not only do they not get symptoms, but it actually reduces them and increases their energy levels. You don't have to be at the mercy of your illness. You can take back control. The key is to acknowledge the role that emotional issues and the resulting suppression of negative emotions over years and years play in your condition. Now you have a starting point from which to understand how the production of symptoms can be reversed. If you're ready to take this information, build on it, and start taking back control of your health, then everything that you need to do this can be found in my self-paced online recovery course. See the link in the video description to read all about it and how you can enrol right now to get full, instant and lifetime access at a very low price. I hope you found this helpful. Please let me know and I will see you in the next one.